talking about some conditions that impact this at the systems level or building leadership level. Zach, I believe you kind of teed that up. And so I'd love for you to start this next kind of deep dive. So if we think about conditions at the systems level and then zoom in a little bit, you were talking about conditions that might be necessary. So teacher leadership is not negatively impacting students. And I would say, too, even negatively impacting teachers. Myself, working as a teacherpreneur and working in a hybrid role, experienced probably a little singeing and a little burnout. So how do we have conditions for teacher leadership so it's not at the detriment of students or teachers?
Well, the short answer is I don't know. And if I knew that, then I would not be so burned out myself. I think when I think about my position and I think about what I'm interested in serving my 125 plus students a day in terms of helping them with the skills they need to succeed. But in addition, I'm also growing more and more interested in the larger world of public funding, why schools receive the funds that they do. And I don't know where to compartmentalize those pieces. I do think one of the ways that can be very useful for teachers is to simply learn about and engage with the larger teacher world out there via Twitter, via writing, via blogs, that I think a lot of teachers just going through their day don't know exist. I'm relatively new to the whole Twitterverse with education, and I had no idea how many voices there are and how many chats there are and how many ideas there are bouncing around every single day. And I think it can be so empowering and refreshing to realize that there is a whole world of education out there, a whole world of education conversation that exists outside your classroom. And that can be so invigorating and so energizing and can help you see the forest for the trees. So I think the first thing can just be teachers brought to be aware of the fact that there are these systems out there, this world out there to connect with, that can really spark new ideas and spark new energy.
I would like to build on that, especially since you were bringing in the social media part to the conversation and thinking about building like your personal learning network. One of the things that I really advocate for is the power of LinkedIn. It's especially for teachers. A lot of times teacher leaders don't think about the importance of having a profile on LinkedIn, how you can connect to, you were saying you're interested in understanding public funding. There are all these policymakers and people that work in different departments of education and things of that nature that you can plug into through that particular medium and that platform. And so I too agree that there are lots of ways to engage with educators, not just in your own locale, but globally. And that's one of the ways that's a great tool that can also be used to really help not only you hone in on a particular skill, but also broaden your horizons and your networking connections as well.
Can I respond to something in that, Patrice? The LinkedIn, and I guess to Zach too, both Twitter and LinkedIn, powerful, tremendous, professional shaping and continually improving tools. Absolutely outstanding. It just occurred to me that both of those are examples of opportunities for professional growth that happen outside of one's own school or one's own organization. And in that way, it makes me wonder, do we by accident, not intentionally whatsoever, but do we by accident in our talk about teacher leadership create this elitist mentality that we can only go other places or that we should go other places? Again, not to say anything bad about LinkedIn or Twitter because they've been powerful tools to shape my professional development too. But I know that I have fallen victim to thinking I can't necessarily go to the teacher next door or the one down the hall or even in a different department, but rather I can go and learn from strangers on the other side of the world on Twitter. And it isn't that those people don't have something to teach me. It's that I wonder if a downside to that approach for professional learning networks is that it creates I'm here because I'm learning on Twitter and so-and-so is not here, or Patrice is on LinkedIn, Gary's not on LinkedIn, and therefore this. Really, when it boils down to it, it comes back to something that can happen in any organization, in any industry, which is when some people either elevate themselves or others elevate them to a role, whether it's positional or whether it's just by virtue of influence and achievement, to be known as leaders, others inadvertently feel that they are now labeled as followers if they aren't doing those things. And that's where it can set up almost an elite, inadvertently an elitist mentality that, you know, we're here and you're not. And so I guess for me now, I'm wondering, those tools are important and they should be part of it. How do we create those kind of conditions that exist on LinkedIn or Twitter within our own school communities and organizations so that everyone can feel that they have leadership influence? Because really, like we've all said, it's not about necessarily your role as much as it's about the influence and the impact you can have. And that's something that really does come back to what happens in schools, I wonder.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do both. I think it's a very like a macro, micro kind of a thing. I see the Twitter, LinkedIn world as like the macro educational learning center. I see the professional learning community as the micro center. So for instance, in my school, we have teachers who lead professional learning communities on cultural context, on having our implicit biases, et cetera, et cetera. That's the very micro experience of my school based upon where we are and whom we serve. I think when I can take this Twitter and LinkedIn, I think that's the macro, right? What is education for Latino populations, of which I have zero experience? What is the rural educational experience, of which I have zero? So I think it's definitely an and, not an either or, with the PLC kind of teacher leading from within microsystem and the larger social media macro system.
All right, I'm loving this conversation. I know some of us have a hard stop. So, round robin, speed round. Last thoughts or words of wisdom, and where can people go to find you? Patrice, we'll start with you.
I'm sorry, I had to relocate for a moment, but last thoughts. One is, one of the quotes that I think about is, somebody is waiting on who you're becoming. And so, Gary, when you were talking about, you know, how do you create those conditions where the teacher next door, you feel like I can go to that teacher next door and be able to get that same kind of connection and learning that I need, that I can get from this microcosm that's outside of in the virtual space. And so I always try to think about that somebody is waiting on who I'm becoming. So what I am doing is really to be able to benefit someone else. And it's my responsibility as a teacher leader, someone that's passionate about education, to bring somebody else along and teach them and help them have that same mindset to bring somebody else along as well. And so that's what I think teacher leadership is about. That's why I said it's like disrupting, it's breaking down dismantling those silos and really creating a connectivity and collaboration that will impact the world if we do it the right way. And so if you can find me on Twitter at PD Jackson ATL. And then I also am on LinkedIn, of course. And so you can just search my name on LinkedIn. And I love connecting with teachers and mentoring and coaching teachers through LinkedIn. I do it all the time. And so please feel free to reach out to me.
Gary, last words, and where can people go to connect with you?
Yeah, so I just, again, want to say thank you so much for the conversation. It's really been insightful and an honor to be part of this with everyone. For me, you know, it kind of sums up that everything we've talked about dials back to starting small and working our way out. That it's what's happening in one's own classroom and then spilling over into what's happening into the classroom next door and down the hall, and finding ways to create opportunities to collaborate and work together so that we're all on the same page about what it is that we want to do for both our own and our collective efficacy in schools. And so, you know, for me, the thing that Patrice said about creating those conditions, I think that that's something that both teachers and administrators can work together to create those conditions so that there are opportunities beyond the traditional PLC for teachers to have a professional learning network, which is the appeal that social media tends to give. And, that can be something as simple as getting in each other's classrooms to watch what someone else does and learn and talk about it together in a non-evaluative and low-risk opportunity. And so for me, it's really creating those opportunities to work together with the people who are closest that I think is a starting point and a next step for all of this. But you want to connect with me, get on Twitter. I'm at Mr_Aboud, ABUD. And I do work, like I said, in Metro Detroit and beyond. So I look forward to talking with you more.
Zach, we're throwing it to you. Last words, and where can people go to connect with you?
Well, first off, thank you, obviously, for having just a low English teacher engage with this. But I think when I think of teacher leadership, the thing I think about most is learning. That there is so much to learn, and that the systems that take place, the reasons why certain schools are the way they are versus other schools the way they are, that there are reasons for these things, and that there are reasons for why systems are the way they are, why there is entrenched poverty, and why there are low graduation rates here but not there. Like, there are reasons for this. And I think it's incumbent of us on teachers to learn what these systems are and what these reasons are. Because if we can learn those things, then we can advocate for the change that we know we need because we are in the classrooms. No one knows that like we do. But no one hears our voices because we're too busy teaching. But we need to learn exactly what the truths are that are out there. We need to listen to each other, because even though we may be teachers, we might disagree on everything politically, but we need to listen to one another, get past politics, really engage and listen and learn from one another. And that's why I was doing this, so I could learn. So you can follow me on Twitter at ZFWright. I also am a regular writer to Education Post, so I have something coming up every week. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to our guests. Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Zach. We'd like to also thank Walden University, our partner in this Facebook series, and we'd like to thank ASCD, our partner in this specific Facebook Live. If you are enjoying this conversation and you want to learn more with us, please join us at the National Teacher Leadership Conference hosted by NSTOY, the National Network of State Teachers of the Year, and VOIA, which will happen this summer in Las Vegas, July 8th through 11th. And teacher leadership is one of our problems of practice. So come learn with us. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.